got to start the conversation here. We were talking earlier in the show with law enforcement and security expert Paul Violas about the role that public safety is going to play in the midterm elections. I don't want you to walk down a political path for sure. But before that, we're talking about the Department of Children and Family Services basically saying that they can't get their job done because they're over 400 people short. And I couldn't help but make the connection between staffing shortages and law enforcement. You and I have had this conversation many, many times about how it's just an uphill battle.
Well, it is a challenge. You hear there's not enough truckers, teachers, nurses, on and on.
Right.
And I think what we began to experience this after 2020, right? I believe I've read that they call it the Great Resignation of America and shortages. I don't think law enforcement is immune to that. So it has been challenging. Ever since the George Floyd incident, when we've seen increase in retirements in law enforcement all across America, increase in resignations in law enforcement all across America, that's been a challenge. And, recruitment and retention has been one of the main challenges for law enforcement. In fact, we just left Dallas at the IACP conference, some of my team members and I, looking at the recruitment issues around the country, seeing what's working, what's not working, bringing that back and see how we can continue to motivate this young generation and just help articulate to them how beautiful it is to serve. And, one of the things we're fortunate, we're having academies back to back to back to back. We just had 5 recently graduates from post-lateral from other police departments. We have 19 that are going to be graduating in a couple of weeks. And we already have interviews going on and applications for our academy that's going to start in February.
Okay, so you got an academy starting just a couple months from now in February.
Yes.
The 5 lateral movements I think are interesting because that's 5 people that said wherever they were working before, I want to move into Baton Rouge and work there.
Well, it is. We've been fortunate, with some of our recruiting efforts where we have law enforcement agencies who want to come here and work for the Baton Rouge Police Department. We've always had lateral academies. The 13% raise, the largest raise.
That helps.
Yeah, that we've had, with this new budget that was just submitted. And, we're prayerful that our city council is going to approve it. But that's going to put us, if you're a college degree, right, probably around $52,000 for the first year. That's not counting the incentives, a $10,000 signing incentive for new recruits and $15,000 for lateral officers.
We're talking with Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul, a little bit about the overall numbers and keeping things beefed up. We're going to get to some other stuff on just a little bit. Crime numbers, we got less than 2 months to go in the year. We'll update that in a little bit. But, Chief, I think it's easy for us to get the blinders on and focus just on Baton Rouge. But as you were saying, this is much bigger than a Baton Rouge problem. This is an everywhere problem. You were mentioning to me about a recent graduation for state police.
Yeah, that was interesting. I know state police is moving forward in their recruiting efforts. They just had 20-plus graduate. And I remember when I went through, it was 80 of us in the academy. So, when you look at law enforcement as a whole with the challenges, we have to keep moving forward because we need police. We need boots on the ground.
Yes.
We averaged 50 vacancies a year for the past decade. Right.
Yeah.
Our vacancies right now are around 110. We're going to have those numbers under that by the end of this year because we have interviews right now going already scheduled. And we're hoping as we build, we're going to get those numbers to at least where that 50 vacancy is with the 65 we anticipate on hiring in 2023 with incentives.
So we could talk about quantity all day long. We also have to talk about quantity. So we could talk about quantity all day long. We also have to talk about quality. You had a number of promotions yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, let me tell you. I sat there yesterday and just to listen to my deputy chiefs talk about the 17, I believe it was, 19 promotions that we had yesterday, just talks about all of the great talent, highlights the great talent that we have in this organization. I'm proud to be there, to get goosebumps, just to hear the body of work on all of those that we promoted and how this new leadership is going to continue taking the Baton Rouge Police Department to be the best agency in the state and in the country because I tell you, we have a lot of talent within this organization, and I'm proud of the work that the men and women here are doing.
Let's talk results. Let's talk a little bit about what we're seeing out there as far as crime numbers. And if you've got anything on clearance, I would love that as well.
Yeah, well, right now our clearance rate is about in 56. I think when I last looked. Right now at this time, we've had 81 people murdered in the city of Baton Rouge. Last year at this time we were at 100, 84 the year before. So we see those numbers trending downwards around 20%. We've been averaging that, and I think we're going to finish the year continuing to bring those numbers down.
Okay.
Read a report from our crime strategy unit, which is the district attorney's office, that non-fatals are down also. Overall shooting incidents, CADs were down around 13%, according to our third quarter report. So we're seeing some reductions in those areas. So we're hopeful that the strategies that we put in place, we've reassigned a lot of personnel to very micro areas in our community. You'll see them there at times, and we're seeing that. We're still talking about, are we displacing it in some areas as well?
Well,
so we're
that's a good question. If you move into one area,
yes,
is it just moving like? Are they just shifting where they do business?
Yeah, and that's one of the things we're looking at as well. I think what we're seeing is two things that have been consistent since we begin to be a little more deliberate with these strategies in September, and we see these numbers going down, is targeting those areas at specific times, and community engagement. Those are the two factors that we are believing going to help us in this year better than the last 2 years, and continue in January to build off that momentum.
I gotta tell you, when you talk about those micro areas and whatnot, you've got me on this path now, because I'm looking right across the railroad tracks over here.
Yes.
From the railroad tracks to 19th, from Government to Florida, over the last couple of months, I think we've had 2 stabbings, a couple of arsons, and of course the horrific murder of Valley Rice as well. Yes. It's like when you start describing it in those terms, that people in places, right?
It's things, people, places, and things.
Absolutely. Yeah. And one of those things would be opportunity, for sure. But when you start describing in those terms, it really gets clear. The picture gets clearer of, okay, oh my goodness, this is exactly what the chief is talking about. This square block here, this little grid right here.
There's a small group of people in our community that's responsible for the violent crime.
Yes.
And we are taking a very a targeted approach with that. Our federal partners, we have a meeting again with them tomorrow. We meet every week with our violent crime unit, talking about this small group of individuals and what we can continue to do to get them off the streets. We're working with the FBI, with the Drug Enforcement Administration, with the U.S. Marshal Services, ATF. We are all in this fight together to help bring crime down in our city.
You mentioned
the sheriff's office.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
They've been busy as well.
Yeah.
The U.S. Marshals Task Force got the. So we're going to talk about the Crime Stoppers luncheon in just a minute, because that's always a very moving a moving event. But I was sitting at the table at the Crime Stoppers luncheon on Friday, at the next table over from the U.S. Marshals Task Force, and they were recognized for their efforts. Yeah. And I mean, are the kids at school yet? Can I say badass on the air right now? Because when that group got up to walk up to receive their recognition, Chief, there's got to be a level of reassurance knowing that you got that crew that's got your back.
Absolutely. Let me tell you, they rock. The work that our U.S. Marshals have been doing to catch the criminals that are responsible for crime. We have Baton Rouge police officers that are permanently assigned to that task force. They actually work under the authority of the federal government. And they do a pretty good job.
Before we get to the Crime Stoppers luncheon, I got to ask you about one or two more about current crime. We always talk about the violent crime here. Where are we at with property crime right now?
So when we look at property crime, we were trending around 20-something%. When we look at just the last 7 days, if you go to our website, Baton Rouge, BRPD.com, if you look at reports, there's a crime trend analysis report that's almost real time. And you actually get to see a 7-day rolling average on crime. Right now, it's about 0.24% over the last 7 days. We've been trending around 25. When I looked at, I believe, the third quarter, we were around 23%. Now, that's challenging because, as we go into the holidays, property crimes, I could tell you we have a lot of operations that are going on. I was briefed yesterday on some efforts. In fact, we work with the sheriff's office, who actually was involved in a chase involving 6 individuals that were involved in some robberies, and we assisted them with our drones as well as our K9 units and helped them apprehend those individuals. So we do have some covert and overt operations going on. Some individuals that we think are going around involved in some of the burglaries around here. Not going to speak to it, but there is some enforcement action that's anticipated on one particular group that we believe is responsible.
We got about 2 minutes left. Let's dial it back to Friday. The Crime Stoppers luncheon is it's always a very moving event, especially towards the end when there's a recognition of the fallen officers.
Yes.
But overall, the partnership with Crime Stoppers and the event itself.
Well, Crime Stoppers, we continue to nurture that partnership with Crime Stoppers. But just to hear all of our law enforcement officers in the capital region being acknowledged and celebrated and given their flowers for the hard work that they're doing, and at the same time acknowledging those who've made that ultimate sacrifice. So it's different emotions when you sit there, but it was a great event, and congratulations on your acknowledgement.
Here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Congratulations.
No.
On that. Yes, sir.
It was, and it's such a wonderfully run event as well. But to put that number of people in the room together, it's always a very moving experience.
Well, we don't always hear about the great work, and that's the thing, because sometimes the toxic news, the crime, and all of those things, they trend, they take the headway. So we don't always hear the great work that's going on. And I hear it every Monday, and I have story after story after story of Baton Rouge police officers stopping crimes in progress, arresting criminals. We just had a young lady that was shooting at the Oyo Hotel that
I heard
ran.
about that. Yeah.
We actually caught her, and we later learned that she was previously arrested for an incident in a beauty salon where a gun was fired in the air. That made a lot of public news. I believe was stealing something there. But look, every day I get a story about a BRPD officer doing the right thing. And I always say this: we have thousands of hours of video evidence where our police officers are doing the right thing every single day. And we're proud of them, and we're going to continue lifting them up. And look, please keep them in our prayers. Nationally, we're seeing some increases in violence towards law enforcement officers. A very hard job, and they're out there serving us. So please lift our officers up, and every time you see one, praise one.
Absolutely. He is Baton Rouge Police Chief Murphy Paul. We always appreciate the time, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to take a quick